Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier. I'm going to highlight three fundamental factors that help explain why America's economy boomed in the 1920s. There are other factors, and they will be the subject of another presentation. But the three factors I'll highlight here are absolutely central to any good explanation. The most fundamental basis for any explanation has to lie in America itself. It simply had all the resources required for its economy to take off. The most important resource any country has is its people. And America had 106 million people at the beginning of the 1920s. That means it had workers and consumers and growing families. And it had huge tracts of land, and America's farmers were able to supply the American people with almost everything they needed. America also had natural resources like coal and iron ore, and it had gas fields and oil. It was the world's leading oil producer at this point in time. It had a huge steel industry. Again, it was the largest steel producer in the world. And America was at the cutting edge in new industries, such as chemicals, plastics, electrical goods, telephones, and the motor car. America also made sure that markets could be accessed. In 1914, it had 400,000 kilometers of railway. Russia, more than twice its size, only had 74,000 kilometers. Now, America hadn't looked to profit from World War I, but nevertheless, America did indeed profit. And this is the second fundamental factor. It came out of the war as the world's leading economy, a position it was to hold for the rest of the century and beyond. Production rose markedly to meet the requirements of war, and it wasn't just weapons. Not only did they sell arms and munitions, but large amounts of foodstuffs too, so that farmers also profited. And it was leading the way in industries where formerly European countries had done so. For example, America replaced Germany as the world's leading producer of fertilizers, dyes, and other chemical products. While serving the war efforts of Britain and France also led to the development of new products. Explosives, for example, led to new breakthroughs in plastics. The demand for ships to transport the weapons and food supplies was massive too, so that important industries like coal, iron and steel, as well as manufacturing, all developed during the war. The electrical industry too. Some historians refer to what happened as America's second industrial revolution. And it was all one way. That is, America was selling things and buying very little. So much so that by the end of the war, American exports would double the value of its imports. What's more, not only was America selling increasing amounts of goods to Europe, but Britain and France were obliged to borrow from American bankers and businessmen in order to pay for them. When those loans were paid back, there would be more money to invest in American companies. The third fundamental factor was the policies of its post-war presidents. All three presidents in the 1920s were Republicans. Warren Harding from 1921 to 23, Calvin Coolidge from 1923 to 29, and Herbert Hoover from 1929 to 33, and they encouraged American entrepreneurs to make things, and the rest of America to buy American-made goods. As Harding had put it during the first election campaign after the war, America should return to normalcy, by which he meant making money and spending it. Coolidge continued in the same vein, declaring that the business of America is business, whilst Hoover had boasted that he would put a chicken in every pot and a car in every garage. Republicans held to the belief that if businesses did well, then everybody did well, because businesses created jobs, and the more profit they made, not only could more jobs be created, but better wages could be paid too. These governments adopted what we call a policy of laissez-faire. That is, they left businesses to run themselves as much as possible, with a minimum of government direction. Taxes were cut, so increasing the spending power of ordinary Americans and giving businesses the means to reinvest in their companies. Trusts, huge super corporations which dominated whole industries like steel and oil, were also allowed to be developed. Trade unions, on the other hand, were seen as a bad thing, holding back businesses, so their power was minimized. One way in which American governments did intervene, however, was with respect to tariffs. The Republicans were protectionists and sought to protect American farmers and businesses by imposing tariffs on imports, making them more expensive than either home-produced farming products or goods manufactured in America. Profits increased spectacularly by an average of 72%. Wages rose steadily, 8% between 1923 and 1929. There was confidence in the economy, a confidence that it would continue to grow and that most Americans would always prosper. It was very important in helping create a consumer boom on things like radios, vacuum cleaners, washing machines and cars, especially as many would be bought on credit. So, I hope that forms a useful basis for your explanations for just why the American economy boomed. There is another way of looking at the economy, and that too will be the focus of another presentation. But for now, I will, as always, thank you for listening. And I'll remind you that I now have my 4 ebooks on the American Debt Study in a super star-spangling compilation, available on Amazon at an amazingly bargain price. In truth, I can't remember what the price is, but I'm sure it's a bargain. But in any case, I'm done for this presentation. Cheers.